Story 1 Jeep. Sherwin-Williams promoted. Jeep. Story 2. In this thread, not mechanics, just random people sharing their experiences with the 3 cars they have owned. Story 3 Journeyman technician here. Do not buy Stellantis or Jeep. Do not buy Ford or General Motors unless it is a truck. Do not buy Dodge. Honda and Toyota are really top tier in terms of reliability. Kia and Hyundai are decent but not as good as the above 2. Story 4. To reach mechanical enlightenment is to know all cars are unreliable. Story 5. Bus mechanic here in France. I will avoid Isuzu, maybe Temsa for doors and Autocar. I will choose Mercedes, MAN, Scania and possibly Iveco. Story 6. Click and Clack once said, Alfa Romeo is Italian for the mechanic's son wants to go to college. Do you agree? Story 7. My best friend is a mechanic and he says the rings of an Audi represent each time the car is going to cause serious problems. Story 8. Here is one of my old posts from a Hyundai dealership. Every black box is a motor or transmission. I have also worked at a Honda dealership. They did not have a pile like this. I rarely saw motors or transmissions being pulled out. In fact, I never got the pleasure of doing them myself either. Having experience working on both brands extensively, there is no question, Honda is vastly more reliable by a wide margin. Yes, they have their own issues. No brand is perfect, but their issues are nowhere near the level of Hyundai. Story 9. I have had 5 Honda Civics, and now I am driving a Civic recreational vehicle. None of them have ever given me a moment's trouble. Story 10. I have been a mechanic for 25 years. I mostly work on trucks and heavy equipment, but based on my friends' and coworkers' recommendations, I would never buy a Land Rover. A friend of mine is a Land Rover mechanic, and my wife was seriously considering a Range Rover Sport. He strongly recommended against it and said, if anything, lease it so it is not your problem in 3 years. Story 11. From what I have heard, Jeep is ranked quite high on that list. Story 12. BMW is known for high maintenance costs. Some models require specialized tools, and parts can be expensive. Story 13. Audi. Want to do something small and typical like change a thermostat? You have to disassemble half the engine to get to it. A $150 job easily becomes a $2,000 job just for labor. Story 14. Not a mechanic, but my Audi service advisor says do not own an Audi electric vehicle or Audi A6 without a warranty. They have been service nightmares even for Audi. Story 15. Euro mechanic. Anything 20 years old or newer with over 80,000 miles on the odometer. The reputation of lasting forever, being built like a tank, and able to be driven hard without failing is over. Story 16. Do not buy new Dodge vehicles, specifically the new 5.7 Durangos. Approximately 30% of our fleet has experienced failures due to the oil cooler issue, affecting hundreds of vehicles. Story 17. Many cars from Stellantis. Jeep, Citroën, Fiat, Peugeot, Maserati, Lancia. Story 18. Dodge, Ram, and Jeep are building everything as cheaply as possible. Nissan and Infiniti have problems with ignition coils, and their continuously variable transmissions do not last. Anything German, especially Mercedes-Benz, makes things extra complicated for the sake of making them complicated. Kia and Hyundai engines fall apart after 100,000 miles. Story 19. Every modern car make and model is best to own under warranty. All the extra features just cause more failures. That being said, buy Toyota. Story 20. I was a technician for 6 years at a high-volume independent shop. 90% of our revenue was Ford or Volkswagen products. The other 5% was routine service, and the last 5% was anything older than the year 2000. Story 21. They asked for mechanics' opinions, and I get the impression many here are from the general public. Not that their thoughts on those should be dismissed, but take it for what it is, a very small sample size. As a mechanic, my opinion is that comparing the quality of an entire brand is completely useless and hypothetical. Compare models and completely dismiss models with major common issues. Story 22. My father-in-law is a mechanic with over 50 years of experience. The two brands that he consistently mentions are BMW and Lexus. He does not like BMW because the parts are harder to find and he does not think they are reliable. He does not like Lexus because he said it is internally the same as a Toyota, but marked up for a higher price. He wonders why not just buy a Toyota for less. Story 23. Any BMW out of warranty will drain your soul and your wallet. Story 24. Don't see Mazda in the comments. We have been lucky with Ford vehicles. Had a Ford for 10 years, from 2014 to 2024, with no issues until the brakes failed. Even Ford service could not find the problem. Got a 2024 model of the same vehicle. Experienced more problems with the dealership than with the vehicle itself. Story 25. As a service writer for a transmission shop, do not buy a Nissan with a continuously variable transmission. I see at least 3 of them a week with bad transmissions that need to be replaced. Ultima, Sentra, Maxima, and Murano are the worst of the lot. I do not see as many Rogues and Pathfinders, but I still see them occasionally. Story 26. Based on the JD Power Vehicle Dependability Survey, the 5 worst are Volkswagen, Chrysler, Jeep, Audi, and Land Rover. Story 27. 1. Chrysler products. 2. Anything newer than about 2009. It just gets worse as time goes on. Story 28. Chrysler. Owning one means paying monthly for new problems. Story 29. So what I have learned here is do not buy any cars unless they are from the 1980s or 1990s. Story 30. Daewoo, Land Rover, Jeep, Mazda passenger car diesel and Subaru diesel are also on that list. Not from personal ownership experience, but from observation. I have worked in the fleet industry for 25 years and have had to escalate some issues to the manufacturer level when dealers were not able to solve the problem. Story 31. Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler are all terrible. The best and most amazing car I have ever had is the Mercedes S-Class 450. It has been very reliable for me, but simple maintenance like brake changes is very expensive. It is a little scary because mine is equipped almost like a Maybach with all the features, so when something eventually breaks, I know it will be costly. My other car is a Toyota Tundra. It has had 0 issues and I will probably keep it forever. Story 32. Auto industry experience in various roles for the past 20 years. Disclaimer. I would potentially own these vehicles in the right configuration or with the right expectations. Late model Jeeps. Generally unreliable. Nissan, continuously variable transmissions. Low price expensive cars. No car is more expensive than a cheap expensive car. If I were in the market for a commuter car, I would look at those with a consistently reliable reputation such as Honda and Acura, Toyota and Lexus, Mazda, and others. Depending on specific needs, my recommendation might change. Story 33. Jaguar, Jeep, Chrysler, Pontiac. Most major manufacturers have issues in some form or fashion. Routine maintenance is the key even with the above 3, but those are the most notable for terrible problems. Story 34. As a Skoda owner, I am waiting for the name to appear, but there is still no mention of it. For once in my life, I am feeling a bit lucky. Story 35. Not a mechanic, but I work in the automotive industry. I would stay away from everything that is not Japanese. Story 36. Are you talking about new cars under warranty or 10-year-old 3-owner cars? Story 37. Former mechanic here. With Chrysler vehicles, you have to remove half the car to replace a single part. Story 38. In reality, it is not so much about manufacturers as it is about individual models that engineers could not get quite right. Everybody says Jeep, and that is generally true. However, 1990s Jeep Cherokees ran forever. The bodies rusted around the engine, but somehow they kept going until they were crushed at 400,000 kilometers. General Motors had their fair share of issues, but they also made the 350 engine, which is incredibly reliable, and the 3800 also very reliable. You cannot go wrong with most Hondas or Toyotas. However, they have had their own issues historically. CR Versus had their frames recalled between 2007 and 2012. You have to check the reliability of a model for specific model years to ensure you are getting a good one. Story 39. According to my mechanic, in addition to many issues mentioned here with the Chevrolet Equinox, I can confirm that my engine failed at 90,000 miles. My friend's engine failed at 75,000 miles. My cousin's engine failed at 86,000 miles. Then she got another one, and that engine failed around 90,000 miles. Another friend had one fail at 80,000 miles. Story 40. Mechanics of Reddit: which car brands have the biggest issues that you would not purchase? This is a question I have been asking mechanics for almost 40 years. The only two car brands that I have not been told to avoid are Honda and Toyota. Do with that what you will. Story 41. BMW is too expensive to repair, and do not even think about fixing it yourself. The components are basically welded together. Story 42. I personally would never own anything made by Jeep from the last 10 years. Not a single model. I am not a fan of European vehicles, simply because I am unfamiliar with them, having switched to a dealership 8 years ago. I would take almost any European brand vehicle over a Jeep. I would say Ford, but that is the brand I work for, and I have pretty much got them down these days. The devil I know, I suppose. Story 43. For Europe, certainly all Stellantis cars. I work in a call center for roadside assistance. Story 44. Volkswagen. Another German company that should never be trusted again unless leased. Story 45. Audi and Volkswagen products and companies. No company has done more to promote and normalize 1980s Ferrari-like repair and running costs on average cars than this company. Story 46. I have been a technician for 10 years, working at independent shops, Nissan, and now a European dealer. I recommend everyone buy a Toyota Corolla. I drive a Toyota Corolla every day. I have a very long commute. I get 37 miles per gallon. Parts are inexpensive, and the car is very easy to work on. If you value economy, drive a Corolla. Consider a hybrid if you have extra money. For a fun car, choose a Porsche 911 or Boxster. Story 47. According to Consumer Reports. Story 48. Mini Coopers, specifically BMW's second generation, have timing chains that are known to fail early, causing the valves to contact the pistons. They operate at a very high temperature, and if they overheat, the aluminum engine warps and becomes damaged. Additionally, there are the usual BMW issues and repair costs. Despite this, it is a fun car to drive. Story 49. It has been a while since I talked to my cousin who owns his own shop, but he told me to avoid Jeep, Land Rover, any of the luxury brands such as BMW and Audi, anything that started in Britain in general. Story 50. Stay clear of Korean cars. Stick with Toyota and you will be fine. Honda vehicles are often targeted for theft. Most relay attacks happen on Honda, BMW, and Hyundai vehicles. Korean cars have poor transmission quality. Story 51. I had to replace plugs and coils in a Bugatti Veyron once. It was over $21,000. I would not recommend buying one of those unless you have an extra $21,000 lying around. Story 52. Whichever one my broke cousin swears is bulletproof. If he recommends it, I know I will be spending my weekends on the side of the highway. Story 53. Based on my history. 1. 2000 Ford Explorer Sport. Loved it. 2 years. Aside from hitting a tree, it was great. 2. 1996 Chevrolet Cavalier. Decent rental. 2 months while the first vehicle was fixed. Would not own. 3. 1999 Mercury Mountaineer. Loved it. 2 years. No issues other than self-inflicted. 4. 2005 Scion TC. Loved it. 2.5 years. No issues and would love to still have it. 5. 2005 Jetta. Mixed emotions. 5 years. Drove great, but no one could fix the faulty wiper motor. 6. 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Loved it. 7 years. Wish I had it for road trips. With proper maintenance, I could have gotten 250,000 miles. 7. 2019 Honda Ridgeline. Loved it. Just sold before 5 years. I drive a lot, so regular maintenance is a must. Transmission can fail anytime between 5 miles to 150,000 miles depending on luck. 8. 2025 Honda Ridgeline. Just bought yesterday. Too soon to have an opinion. I have driven 350,000 miles, probably more. Honda and Toyota have been the best to own for me. Story 54. For big trucks, Sterling has a good motor and good transmission. The rest is absolutely garbage. Story 55. Any car that comes with the warning objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Story 56. I once asked my mechanic because I was in the market for a new car. He said to avoid anything German. Story 57. Every Ford engine with a rubber timing belt runs through oil. It will dissolve over time and clog your oil lines, which is very bad. Story 58. Trained and certified mechanic in Australia. Avoid four-wheel drive Jeep, Nissan, and Mitsubishi vehicles. The Japanese manufacturers produce great smaller cars, but the resale value and reliability of a Toyota are exceptional. For Toyota Hilux models, avoid automatic transmissions. I worked for a Nissan dealership and have negative experience with the Navara and the trim on new Patrol models. Kia was good for a period, but their new vehicles are less impressive. Hyundai vehicles are average but not outstanding. General Motors covers many models across multiple continents under different brand names. Holden in Australia, Vauxhall in Europe, and Chevrolet in the Americas. This makes parts easy to find and relatively inexpensive, though cooling system issues arise, especially in the hot Australian climate. Ford vehicles are unreliable, using outdated wheel alignment methods involving shims. Technicians often skip important steps to save time. Toyota is the only brand I trust for parts, reliability, and resale value. Story 59. Not a mechanic but worked for a multi-brand dealership taking and making calls. Do not buy light commercial vehicles. They get the most recalls of any brand by a long shot. They are a poor brand to deal with, and I heard from mechanics at our dealership that they are also difficult cars to work on. If you want a cheap new utility vehicle or sport utility vehicle, Kia, Build Your Dreams, Great Wall Motors, Mahindra, and Isuzu will all be better than light commercial vehicles. Story 60. Chrysler, Jeep, and Dodge are built like one-time use, throwaway cars. Slightly less problematic are Land Rover, Jaguar, Ford, and Fiat. Tesla and BMW are especially problematic once out of warranty. Story 61. Former mechanic, all of them. Buy a horse and cart. It is probably more reliable. Story 62. Hobby mechanic here. I have owned and worked on dozens of my own cars and those of my family. And my answer is, forget BMW. Thank you for listening to my talk. Story 63. To all mechanics, how reliable and durable is a base Porsche Macan 2.0, model year 2022 onwards? For normal everyday use, driving around suburbs and cities. No off-road use. Story 64. Anything Stellantis, including Abarth, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Fiat, Citroën, Peugeot, do not do it. It is not worth it. You will waste time, money, and patience. I do not care if you had an amazing 2006 Jeep. Right now, quality in this group is poor with many reported engine issues. It is not normal for a car to have broken engines, transmissions, and many other problems at 60,000 miles. Story 65. Okay, I am not a licensed mechanic, but I do all my own mechanical repairs and preventive maintenance. Rather than focus on what I would not buy, here is what I would buy: Volvo and Polestar, Acura and Honda, Lexus and Toyota and Tesla. I have owned all these brands and have never run into problems. Story 66. Hobbyist mechanic my whole life. Range Rover, Jaguar and Alfa Romeo. I have considered purchasing all three, and it takes basic research to find all the issues and how often they occur. Story 67. In order of no from the most problematic: Subaru, Jeep, Nissan. All Toyotas I have owned or used for work have been very reliable, and the Mazdas have been a close second. Story 68. U.S. school bus technology here. In order of most reliable to least, not including short buses as they are built on cutaway Ford and Chevrolet chassis. Bluebird, International, Freightliner/Thomas built buses. They are the same company. You might think International and Freightliner would be better since they also manufacture semi-trucks. However, that is not the case. We do not have a single Freightliner in our fleet because they are just that unreliable. Bluebird has been making buses and only buses for 93 years. Their only significant issues are with the powertrain, which they do not manufacture. Propane Ford engines frequently have spark plug failures. Story 69. Abarth, Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Citroën, Dodge, DS Automobiles, Fiat, Jeep, Lancia, Maserati, Opel, Peugeot, Ram Trucks, Vauxhall. Story 70. As usual, a bunch of these car brands are good. I had no problems while it was new. Story 71. Many years ago, I stood by the side of the road for the umpteenth time while roadside assistance was trying to bring my Renault back to life. I asked the mechanic the same question. His answer was, "Sir, if it were not for French and Italian cars, I would be out of a job." Knowing that, I bought a second-hand 1998 Volvo 945 about 15 years ago. I am still driving it with no drama. Story 72. Ford vehicles with automatic transmissions. If the transmission is power shift, avoid it. Story 73. Chrysler. I have heard mechanics call it the paycheck brand because you will always see it back. Story 74. Some Nissan models have transmission issues. Older luxury cars can be very expensive, such as BMW, Volvo, Mercedes, and Italian brands. Story 75. Stellantis vehicles are problematic. Source me an actual dealer technician. I avoid working on these like the plague. Fix one issue, and 3 more go wrong in the following days. They are only worth a short-term lease or rental vehicle at most. Story 76. For the most part, it's all a mixed bag. I do have a pro tip if you're looking at buying a used car. Go look up the price for typical wear items. I used to work the parts counter, and far too often I'd see someone come in talking about the great deal they got on a car, only to find out a brake job would cost $1,500 in parts alone. Things to price check. Brake parts. Pads, shoes, calipers, wheel cylinder, rotors, drums, hoses. Drivetrain, wheel bearings. Suspension, shocks, struts, ball joints, control arms. Steering depends on how the steering is set up on the car, but in general, price checking the tie rod ends is a good idea. Electrical, battery, alternator, starter, oxygen sensors. Remember, there is no such thing as a cheap luxury car. If the sticker price doesn't get you, the maintenance will. Story 77. Hyundai and Kia. The number of issues I have seen in these vehicles over the years is mind-boggling. The fact that Hyundai and Kia vehicles keep experiencing engine failures many years after the problem was identified shows that the companies do not care about their products. Story 78. Neighbor bought a pre-owned Jeep Grand Cherokee in February with less than 35,000 miles. He drove it 10 times before it went back to the dealership for electrical problems and still does not have it back. We are in August. Their previous Jeeps from 2010 worked well enough but started needing bigger repairs that made you question if you were spending more than what it was worth. Brother-in-law was a mechanic at Jeep until this past May. He advised against driving a Jeep. Story 79. Toyota is the best. If you cannot get a Toyota, anything Japanese is good, or Korean if necessary. Everything else is inferior. I continue buying old British vehicles, however. Story 80. Not a mechanic but service manager at an independent dealer or shop. Jeep, Volvo, Kia, pre-2014 Infiniti, Jeep Wrangler. Story 81. Any 2012 or newer Ford Focus or Fiesta with the dual-clutch transmission for starters. The manual transmission versions were great cars and an excellent value since the poor reliability of the dual-clutch transmission models also dragged down the value of all the Focus models. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.